But we're self-entertaining, so we're okay.
Well, listen, when you're with Mary Palco, it's always self-entertaining. So that's for sure. So anyway, this is Bill Boerum, and I have the honor to be the country representative for Peru under a new scheme and plan that the board of directors and our global awareness team have put together. And we'll be talking about that. But it's my honor to have this role, to be kind of a prompter. And so this is to be our organizational meeting. And we had a number of acceptances. But for those who accepted and didn't show up, and for those who didn't do anything, we'll make this video available up on YouTube. So we've been recording, and so welcome to those of you who are on. And let me ask each of you, giving courtesy to our Peruvian partner people, to introduce yourselves briefly. Later, we'll get into the sharing of anything that you're doing. And then, of course, Mary will say what she does, so which could be a very long introduction. But anyway, all right. Hey, Fernando.
Well, hello, everybody. My name is Fernando Nieri. I am the chair of the Austin Lima Sister Cities Committee. We, like any other sister cities, we try to promote cultural exchange, educational exchange, or business exchanges between the city of Austin and Lima. This is going to be, I'm going for my third year as the chair. Before I joined the committee, it was kind of like a little bit of a dormant, not dormant, but like there were very few activities that were done because the previous committee members were like busy and they couldn't do a lot of stuff. So the new board, we started almost 3 years ago, as I said. And since then, the first year, we did quite a bit of activities. We had a couple of groups from 2 delegations from Congress from Peru.
Say, if I may ask you, Fernando, we can get into more of the sharing a little bit later. I don't mean to cut you off as I cut you off. But anything else about your personal background?
Personal background. My personal background, I own a graphic design and motion graphics company.
Okay. And now, where were you born and went to school?
I was born in Lima, in Peru, and I moved to the U.S. in October of 1999. So I've been here for quite a bit of time. And I went to school, elementary, middle, high school. You go to the same school. It's kind of like different over there. So to the Air Force school. My dad was in the Air Force. So I went there, and then I went to college over there too. I got my degree in animal science engineering, and then did my MBA with a concentration in marketing and communications here in Austin at St. Edward's University.
Right. Wow. Well, that's great. Scoop. Okay, let's talk to Julianne.
There we go. Always have to unmute. I am the director of Keep Gastonia. Oh no, sorry. I have 2 nonprofits that I run. This one's Gastonia Sister Cities. So sorry. Gastonia Sister Cities in Gastonia, North Carolina. We have 2 sister cities, one in Germany, which I was on the Germany call with Mary I think that was in January. For Go to Germany, we've been partners with them for almost 27 years. And we have been partnered up with Santiago de Surco, which is a suburb of Lima. We just call it Surco. It's easier that way. Since 2004, I've been the director for 13 years of the program. Kind of got here waywardly. I had applied for the job when I first moved down to North Carolina. I didn't get it. I didn't speak Spanish. So they were like, no, you don't get it. But they hired me for a different job. Our sister city is actually a position within our city government, our local government. So the city pays for my salary and supplies and stuff. And we also have a nonprofit as well. I didn't get the job, but then they went through 2 different people and they said, well, by the way, Now you get this on top of your other duties because you were so good at it. So been
Wow,
doing
that's
it for many,
great.
many years. But yeah, we've been partners with Serco since 2004. So
Well, thank you very much. Good. Hey, Mary. So Mary's been at this Sister City stuff for a long time, certainly much longer than me. So try to make it brief there because you got a
Yeah.
lot to say.
And longer than our two guests have lived, I think, so these two babies over here. So
Did you know Eisenhower?
Eisenhower and I were like this. Actually, I'm Mary Palco. I'm from Fort Worth, Texas. Hello, Austin. And I am a global envoy for Sister Cities. There's 3 of us, and we represent Sister Cities abroad. And right now, we have now in place what is called the Global Awareness Team. And it
Oh, excuse me, Mary.
literally,
I was going to get into that, and I'll
okay,
probably defer to you to do that explanation after I attempt to introduce it. But let's hear about the personal side of
okay. So
Mary and those hotels and wine industry connections that you have.
Okay, so we have a family corporation and we have international properties. Let me start. We have them in Texas, and we also have Argentina, Nicaragua, France, and Texas. And we do long-term and short-term rentals. So we have B&Bs in Texas also, and 2 vineyards. We have a hotel in Buenos Aires, which had to close and then got to open up again, but then they didn't let people in, and so now it's closed again. So I'm very excited about what we're trying to do in South America. To Bill's point, underserved from American sister cities. So, woohoo!
Well, I think we're trying to do what we can, and we'll talk more about that for Latin America, Western Hemisphere, but I think it's been traditional for U.S. diplomacy to underserve the area. It's kind of by default, and even American business. I remember when I was in banking, you'd have all these interesting places in Europe that any of the big banks did a lot of business with, and Latin America was kind of a generic, depending on local trade flows, but not too much of a discipline paid attention to. So that'll allow me to say that I'm a career banker, or as I sometimes say, I'm a reformed banker. But was in that for about 25 years and in the risk management technology space. And I wish it had been as an entrepreneur rather than a sales guy. Now we're in the world of fintech, which sounds pretty good. A lot going on there. But I've been with Sister Cities, various activities for about 15 years, and have traveled quite a bit around when I was the chair, and to try to keep it up, and have been very opportunistic in my runnings around the world. So, well, anyway, that's the scoop on each of us briefly. Let me then get into the Global Awareness Team, again, relatively briefly, and Mary will pick up on this, anything I leave out. I don't mean to steal her thunder by any means. I'm not sure exactly when it was, and Mary can say this, probably about a year or so ago, a little more than that, maybe 2 years, we started to designate people as country representatives who would try to orchestrate, maybe not even coordinate, but orchestrate better within certain countries the activities of the partnerships that were in existence. But it also wanted to take Sister Cities International and increase the awareness of it as an entity, its mission, etc. So the Global Awareness Team was formed along with, beginning with the core, as Mary identified, the global envoys, of which she may be the longest standing, I hate to say it, longest surviving, still standing and surviving. So there are different tiers to that, and I do have a slide deck, which as I said, I'm going to forward around, an abbreviated slide deck about this for insiders. But, so maybe at this point, I'll have Mary describe the rest of the structure, just so that you can understand why we're here and why we're doing these kinds of meetings to ramp things up. And by sharing and inspiring, we hope to enliven even more the relationships in various countries. So Mary.
Okay, so we are called GAT as an acronym. It stands for the Global Awareness Team. And in fact, it's a 3-tiered but 2-way content delivery system. It starts with the global envoys at the top. There's 3 of us. We report directly to the chair and the CEO, and then we manage the region reps. Our regions are aligned equally the same way the State Department aligns theirs. So the countries we're talking about are all in Western Hemisphere. Now, an interesting thing is, okay, then there's the region reps and then there's a country rep. And Bill is the country rep for Peru. I am for Argentina. And all GAT members, whether you're a country rep or a region rep or even as a global envoy, you are literally vetted. There's an application form. You have to be a proven, experienced sister city leader at the global level, not just in your little program, but be able to speak about 2 sister cities globally. And then I think every single one of our GAT members have country-specific experience and resources that they can bring to the discussion. And the goal is to enhance existing programs, build up new ones, and create a bigger and stronger network between cities with sister cities. It's pretty simple. And so I did our very first one for Argentina yesterday. Like Bill is for Peru today. We're working the Western Hemisphere right now. It is the most underserved with US partners. It is stunning how few relationships we have just in the hemisphere. If you compared it to, say, Europe or Asia, you have so much more. So that's us in a nutshell. We're appointed by the board. We have an application format, and we all have special duties that we have. So that's it, Bill. It's yours.
Well, thank you very much. No, I think that's important for everyone to know. This is a new effort, and I think it's one of the best things that Sister Cities International, as an organization and as a board, has undertaken, because throughout the world, as each of you know, and we have had quite a view of this, Mary and I, we have all this spontaneity of bilateral municipal relationships. And the network theoretically has been there, but the network needs to be built up, and we need to, I think, make a focus of helping out certain countries where we have expertise. I did fail to say that I have been to Peru on a number of sister cities missions, as well as down there on business. And around the country, by the way, and as a conference speaker. So I claim a little bit of qualifications here. So at this point, would each of you care to share any current activities or that are ongoing, or any recent exchanges, anything that we can know about the respective programs, for a couple of minutes or so? And I think, Fernando, I had cut you off. So dazzle us.
No worries. So yes, what I was saying a little bit earlier was that right after the new committee took over of the Austin Lima Sister Cities organization, we had a couple of delegations from Congress members of Peru. They came here to Austin. They were first in DC, actually, and they were there for like 4 days. And then they came to Austin because they found out that there was a sister city with Lima. So So they came to Austin, and we helped them. They met with several of their counterparts here to learn a little about government accountability and all that stuff.
Excuse me, were
and
they
there was-
federal Congress people, federal? Because in Austin, you have your state representatives.
So in Peru, there's only the kind of like, is the federal part of like the country. Yeah. So there were like 5 people in the first delegation, and then the second one, I think the second one was 5 people too, if I remember correctly. They were supposed to come. There was supposed to be a third delegation to come, but the trip was canceled because of the political turmoil happening in Peru at that time, which is still kind of happening. It's a little bit unstable right now. We're about to go in general elections in April. So yeah, but it was great having them here. Our first hosting event for them. It was really good. They had a great time here. They met with several people here that went to UT to talk to different professors too, the University of Texas. And then after that, we started trying to do some programs in terms of educational programs with the Texas International Education Consortium here in Austin. And that was to do programs for last year, but because of the coronavirus pandemic, everything was put on hold. So right now we are in the process of partnering with one of the high schools here in Austin to do kind of like an exchange program with some high school level students so that they can kind of like get in touch with each other. Like we're trying to put them in touch with 50 different students from different schools, like from the private sector to the public sector in Lima or Peru, actually. And we are in the middle of getting in touch with some schools in Peru to see if they want to be participating in this exchange program in which the students can talk and tell each other how the difference between the educational system and how they do like schools and all that. So we're in the process of doing all that. We just started because Peru, I mean, it's summer right now in Lima, so all the schools were closed and they just started going back to school this week, like all the admin stuff. Right. So students don't go back until the end of March.
Mid-March. Well, I think that's a great model that we can talk about, not only with regard to partnerships in Peru, but throughout the world, really. I mean, it's a great concept. It's engagement between both sides. So,
yeah.
Well, thank you very much, and we'll hope to hear even more about that. And
For
in
sure.
the meantime, before I turn it over to Julianne, I'll welcome someone else from North Carolina, Alexis. So we did some self-introductions briefly at the beginning, and then we were hearing about any current programs or careers, not careers, but activities, things that were going on. So let me turn, Alexis, if it's okay with you, to Julianne, and then we'll come back to you for a brief personal introduction and then anything you know of about the partnership ongoing with
Perfect.
Peru. Well, thanks, Alexis. All right, so Julianne, tell us about what Gastonia, is doing
Sure.
with its city.
Well, not much now because of COVID, but we did send over 750 masks to the school that we're partnered with for them to distribute to either there's a smaller school they're partnered with, or to any organizations, the teachers, whoever they wanted to give the masks to. We have a manufacturer here in Gastonia, North Carolina, that it's called Parkdale Mills. They make masks. They had a couple mishaps on some of their masks, that's little kid masks. So they said it was easy just to send them to us, and we sent them all down there. But the other ones said something like mask up, save up. I'll have to find a mask. I have one in my office anyways, but it was just a nice gesture for us to send those to them. you know how much it's so expensive to send things down there. They were flabbergasted when they saw how much the bill was. But I said, that's what we do. And that's why it's nice to have that government partnership, because that was something that we really wanted to do to make sure they were masked up. But mostly we're partnered with one school there. It's called Colegio Santa Margarita. It's in Surco. And every year since 2005, we've sent students there. And in return, they've sent students to us. We do host families, so they stay with the host family. I work with their partner there, Eleonora, who is just a pleasure to work with. Love kiss, kiss every time. So, but the students we recruit here, they're all Gastonia high school students. They have to be enrolled in Spanish. We go out and recruit through all the teachers, and then they start cultural classes. So we teach them typically on a normal year without COVID from November until May. Twice a month, they'll take evening classes where they're learning about the culture. We make fake money so they can learn how to barter in a market. Like we create a market in our office. We have a whole cultural night where they have a Latin dance night. We have food come in. We have just Viva chicken down the street, but it gives them at least a taste of Peru. But it really also bonds the group as one. So we were finding that we used to just teach Spanish. That was what we did. It was like, we'll teach you extra Spanish, but they weren't getting to know each other on a connected level because they were just so worried about that language part of it. So that's why we made the prerequisite that they had to speak, attempt to speak Spanish at least, or be enrolled in Spanish. But that cultural part is really what made it a little bit more. The groups just seem to get along a lot better. They work better as a team. Nobody's left behind. I mean, there's always going to be a little click here and there, but other than that, that's really been one of our success stories, I think, when we kind of stepped back and said, what are we missing here? They were all just having blank stares, and learning Spanish at 8 o'clock at night is not going to any good for any high school students. So making it a little bit more fun and bringing that culture. And I think that really kind of ramps them up before the trip. Then of course it preps the parents too. You know, we have a big parent prep meeting before we go, and rah, rah, sis, boom, bah, and don't worry about this. And, you know, what to pack and how to prepare themselves when they have their kids come here, because, you know, sometimes unfortunately Peruvians are privileged and don't even know how to make their own lunches. So if an American mom says, make your lunch, you know, they don't know how to do those things. So we tell them, you know, hey, you might need to guide them a little bit. And not that we're trying to baby our Peruvians, we do love them very much, but the kids, at least that we have from our school, are taken care of a little bit more than even our high school students are. But we have just had such a pleasure getting to know these people, and especially with the school that we're partnering up with. I feel like, especially during this pandemic, you know, we're all in this together, and seeing them and how much they're on lockdown makes us really appreciate, you know, what we have, the freedoms to even just walk around the street anytime we want to, and they really can't do that right now. So
boy, that is such a wonderfully rich program that you have described, and one which has a tremendous impact, you know, on both sides. So thanks for telling us about that. And I'm sure in subsequent times when we get together, convenings, that would be one to be highlighted as a success.
You should hear about my German program. It's even better.
Right. So, well, thank you, Julianne. And let me now bring on Alexis. A brief personal description, background, and then on to anything that you can say about the partnership with your sister city in Peru.
Yeah, I'm happy to. Perfect timing, because I was in between meetings and in between buildings, but I just got back to my desk. So Charlotte, we are twinned with Arequipa, Peru. They were our very first sister city, so we've been twinned with them since 1962. The last year, we've had a couple virtual conversations. There is a community group in Arequipa made up of Peruvians that are very involved in the relationship. And so we've had a couple Zoom meetings and conversations and kind of sharing ideas. Additionally, we had a forum, so anyone can watch it if they want. There's a recording of it on cltsistercities.org, which is the new website. So for those of you who don't know, for the last, I say 10 years, the city of Charlotte, the government side, so I work for the government, we've been the caretaker of the relationship because the nonprofit merged with another nonprofit, and that nonprofit ended up closing its doors. And so we still had things that were going on in that time period, about the last 10 years, but it was very much either government focused or business focused or service focused. Service focused has mostly been done by our Rotary. So a couple, we have, I think, 30 Rotaries or more in Charlotte. I can never remember the total number. But a couple of the clubs have projects in Arequipa. One is in Altacaima, and they do a lot of work there. Jim Hintz, if anyone knows him, he is really instrumental in that exchange. He and his wife live half the year in Arequipa, doing service-oriented programs in Altacaima. And then we have another Rotary group who has done like one-off programs there as well. And then two of our independent schools, Country Day School and Providence Day School, have had student exchanges with a couple different high schools down there. But most of them also always include a service-oriented program at what's called the Charlotte School. So there was a school built in Arequipa using fundraising here in Charlotte. We built a school, and I'm sorry, I cannot remember the exact dates of when we built that school, but groups go down and make sure to do a service project while they're there for other exchanges. So the last one was done, I want to say 3 years ago. A group of students from Providence Day, they learned about solar energy, and they worked with a company up here in North Carolina that does produces solar panels, and that company donated panels, and the students went down and helped with getting those panels installed at the school and teaching what they learned about solar energy while they were there, and then some various other smaller service-oriented programs. We've also had some exchanges with an area university. I don't know if they're still doing it, but Belmont Abbey, which is actually closer to Gastonia, it's kind of halfway between us. And for those of you who didn't watch SNL, apparently Charlotte is now the gateway to Gastonia. So let me know how we can help. Be that gateway.
Hey, you're blowing us away here. You're blowing us away. So, well, what about Alexis? Can you give a quick bio?
Yeah, so I am Alexis Gordon. I am the International Relations Manager and Chief of Protocol for the City of Charlotte. I basically handle trade issues and diplomacy issues for the city government. And for the sister cities, it's mainly maintaining our connections governmentally, helping be a conduit for those in our community who are looking to do projects in our sister cities. I grew up all over the world. I was a military brat, so it's quite a natural job for me.
So how many sister city relationships does Charlotte have?
So we have 7 sister city relationships, and then we also have 2 current memorandums of understanding for other kinds of partnerships. Right. Some of our MOUs grow into sister cities or aspire to become them. That doesn't always happen. We just added it because we have a lot of requests for sister cities. And so it's kind of like giving people a test run to understand what being a sister city would mean beyond just a, formal commitment.
Well, this is fabulous what you've said, there in Charlotte. And let me make a parenthetical comment here. In my banking days, traveling throughout the United States, I've been to every single state in the US and met with a lot of people about local economies, and with a sure intent to pander to the people from Texas and North Carolina. Amongst the most positive, constructive, and accomplishing business communities I have ever met, Texas and North Carolina stand out. Wonderful people, educated, literate, and all of that. So compliments. In a way, I'm surprised at these stories, but in a way also not. I'm a little concerned about Texas, though. I think our lunch in California is being eaten by Texas. But anyway, they deserve it. So thanks everyone for those comments. I think what I'd like to do, and I think Mary would share this, and I hope those of you as well, is to get the word out, and that's my job, to all the other partnerships that we have in Peru, of which there are probably upwards of 15 more, to get them to engage with us at another meeting. And I hope each of you will come back for that other meeting, which I was going to make this the last comment, notification that we could meet a month from now on Tuesday, April 6th, month from now, and hope that each of you will be back. And I will really sound the horn here, blow your horns for others to join us, active or inactive, to do more with Peru. I mean, you guys are doing so much on your individual cities. It's fantastic. So let's see, it was mentioned, and I was going to bring it up too, about the upcoming presidential election, which I always think that one of the areas that we don't give too much attention to. I mean, we're very thematic, I think, the individual cities and SCI also, these broad terms of culture, education, economic development, what have you. But one of the things I think would be useful, which Fernando did mention, it caused me to remember it, was comparative government on both the local and state level and federal level, that we should do more work in that area. And the presidential election may afford that opportunity to do that. So I'm not sure how we kind of have a short fuse. Fernando, what's the date of that election? Is it early or late April?
It's early April.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe we can have
this by heart right now.
Yeah, maybe we can have someone have someone speak on that topic. That would be a way of learning about the government, what's coming. So let me note that as a speaker. We can't organize a comparative government exchange.
April 11th. Sorry.
Was it?
It's on April 11th.
Is it a one-day election?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. Well, let's. If anybody has any ideas, maybe Fernando in particular, but I'll also research. Let's get a speaker, whether it be from an embassy or consulate, to speak about the presidential election. Our meeting would be short days before, which also leads me to the topic of which I threw out as bait, which was the concept of a global conversation. I wouldn't want to schedule a global conversation unless we had 30 people or something showing up for it. But let me ask Mary to describe what a global conversation is. And I'd look forward to eventually having one of those for Peru. Mary.
So the Global Awareness Team has two vehicles. The one we're doing right now is called a roundtable. And the global conversation is one that is transmitted across the whole Sister Cities network. And it tends to be ambassadors and content that is universally interesting. So we have, for example, last week we did one on sister schools. So y'all were talking about programs with schools. That was one. It's a universal exchange model. But we have one coming up on March the 8th, celebrating the International Day of Women. And we've got 3 dynamic speakers about that, and where we encourage the local programs to look out and find ways to celebrate the women in their network. So when Bill's ready to do that, getting the high-ranking diplomats and either on a panel or just a one-on-one conversation is very powerful.
Great. And certainly any of you feel free to contribute to that an idea, but I think we do want to generate a larger group even before we go global across the network. But there are so many positive things about Peru. I think, the culture, of course, and the cuisine, which is easy to promote. So anyone else want to make any particular comments about ideas how we can move forward and attract more viewers for the next meeting? Any ideas anyone would have?
I have.
Yeah.
One of something that we've seen across the board with all of our cities and countries, and this, I'm sure this would be interesting too for your different Peruvian sister cities, is yes, how do we do exchanges in the virtual world? But there's great interest in engaging next gen or entrepreneurs and or things about resilience and sustainability are topics that we see coming up. And of course, Peru has many, many, many topics that could be focused on that relate to sustainability or resilience, but also, I mean, next gen and entrepreneurs, that could be, well, it's our future, but there's such talent and energy in that sector. That would be a huge draw.
Any other bright ideas? Again, you guys are doing so much locally. It's absolutely fantastic. I've been invited to speak at a conference in Iquitos the end of this month, the 25th through the 27th. I've been to Iquitos before as a speaker, and will be another one of several of conferences put on by a fantastic fellow, Tito Bruna, who specializes in having conferences on, you might say, municipal best practices and inspiration to municipal leaders. It's fabulous. He'll have like 200 to 250 people. It's incredible. All over the country he's done, including Arequipa. I haven't been to Arequipa. So anyway, I'm waiting for their travel arrangements to come through at this point, but I'm double inoculated. I will give my seniority away by saying I'm probably fully protected, I hope. Well, 95%. So I'll let you know if that comes to pass. So also another little sidetrack we're working on here is with the OAS, Organization of American States. I had a very good conversation with the gentleman, Pablo, who was the representative of the OAS in Lima for many years, Pablo Zuniga. And he came back to head up. I met with him in Lima, and he came back. His next assignment was in charge of public diplomacy in Washington for the OAS. And then he went on to become the director of the Art Museum of the OAS in Washington. We had a great conversation, and I just bring him up because he really put me on to a lot about Peru, good insights for Peru. So anyway, we've made that touch to the OAS, and we'll try to do more with them. So, well, anyway, I've learned so much, and I'm so excited by so much of that, what I've heard, and I'm about ready to conclude the meeting. Any parting comments from anyone?
So Bill, do you have any connection? Is there a Peruvian municipal league?
Maybe Fernando would know that. I don't know. You mean, of course, in the country?
Yeah, in country.
That's what we were trying also to find out. It's kind of interesting that you mentioned that, because the last delegation of Congress members that we had one of them, we were talking about that, how we didn't have somebody over there, at that level, and she said, well, I'm gonna try to help you out and see if I can find out if we ever had somebody, or and all that. So, but haven't heard back from her. It's so hard because all these people that are in politics, and that's their careers. Right now, with what is happening the last almost year in Peru, it's so crazy. So many changes have happened. So I'm hoping that once the election passes, everything's gonna calm down a little bit, and then we can resume conversations with the people that we know there. Because when they came here, they were very happy and pleased. So they always said, hey, if you ever need anything, just let us know. And so our committee is just waiting until elections passes, and then we're going to try to reach out to them again to see if they can help us. We know that if we do it now, it's going to be almost impossible for them to give us any
Sure.
attention. So,
Well, I think my guess would be that there is not a municipal league in Peru, because Pablo he and I have had 2 extended conversations. And again, he was the OAS representative there, and he's a big fan of and quite aware of and have promoted sister cities for many, many years. And he was also a speaker at Tito Bruna's conferences, and Tito would have like 4 conferences a year. And if there was any organization or league like that, Pablo would have known about it, or so. But I'll certainly take it up with Tito when I'm down there. Of course, he's got a real enterprise going, which is fabulous. He really has great connections throughout the country, deep in the country. As I say, he usually has 200 to 250 people at his conference. So, all right. Hearing no further comments, let me thank everybody for participating. Each of you, it's been wonderful to hear these stories. And thank you, Mary, for your always inspiring insights to things organizationally and otherwise. So bye-bye to all. We'll reconvene on April the 6th. Yeah.
thank you.